Hello, and welcome to my channel. I'm Joe. I'm a producer. I've been doing a lot of producing for daytime television, talk shows and cooking shows, and I loved talk shows in the 90s. And I'm assuming you must too, because you clicked on this video, and I couldn't be more excited right now. So as you guys know, in the 90s, talk shows were a little bit more controversial than what they are today. And so I dug through my archives and went back to 1995. Now, this is actually a serious topic. You know, I found this interview with Scott Amedure. Do you guys remember him? He was murdered after appearing on the Jenny Jones show. Well, his brother did an interview, and I found that, and ooh, it is interesting to hear it almost 30 years later. So just in case you don't remember this murder case on Jenny Jones, I'm going to jog your memory. But first, if you love 90s talk shows like I do, I hope you subscribe.
Detroit became the center of that controversy last March when a local man, 32-year-old Scott Amedure, was killed after an appearance on the Jenny Jones show. Amedure went on the program to admit a secret admiration he had for Jonathan Schmitz. Schmitz, who claimed to be humiliated, embarrassed, and ambushed on the program, came to Amedure's home the next day and shot him.
911, state your emergency.
Ma'am, I think I just shot a man.
Okay, why did you do that?
Because he looked at the man, man, so serious.
Can you tell me what happened?
I just watched him and killed him.
As Scott Amedure was buried, Jenny Jones was quick to deny any responsibility.
As much as we all regret what happened, the fact is that this tragedy is about the actions of one individual. He was a guest on that show, and he, like every other guest on that show, was told before he agreed to appear that he'd be meeting a secret admirer, and it could be a person of the same sex or the opposite sex.
So after all these years, I am curious, do you think that Jenny Jones or the Jenny Jones show or the producers? I was not a part of that. I'm a little too young to have produced that. I was still in high school. But do you blame them or do you blame Jonathan Schmitz? Well, either way, let me know though. I do want to know. But either way, let's now take a look at the interview that the local talk show did in Detroit with Scott Amedure's brother.
Frank and his entire family, beyond Scott, you're looking at a true victim. So when you hear all these opinions, that's fine. Now you're looking at a real flesh and blood victim.
Frank, would you tell us how you found out about all this? Did you know Scott was going to go on the show, and how did you find out that he had been murdered?
Well, he told me he was going to be on a daytime talk show. At that time, I didn't have any idea of, what talk shows were all about. I was one of those people that work and never see those things. And I really didn't give it a second thought because Scott was I guess he's been called flamboyant, like Mr. Feiger here, and outgoing. And so there wasn't no thought, so he went on the show. I found out that he was killed when I was at work on the radio.
And what was your reaction?
I suppose I was kind of numb, and I left work and went down to where he lived and stayed there till they took him away.
Who do you blame? Jonathan Schmitz, who fired the bullets, or the Jenny Jones show?
Well, I suppose if you were to phrase it such as, do I feel that Jonathan Schmitz, the producers of the Jenny Jones show, Warner Brothers, whatever, I feel they all share the blame.
They all share the blame. Jeffrey, you said this is a real victim.
Yeah?
This case got a lot of attention because a death was involved. How many people's lives do you think are being damaged out there by some of the things that happen on these shows?
Well, I really don't think people's lives are damaged by watching it. It's their choice to watch. We live in a free country. But for the ratings which promote the advertising dollar, the shows wouldn't exist on television. However, these shows bear, as Mr. Thompson said earlier in that clip, and he's 100% correct on this, and he and I agree, they bear a direct responsibility for victims like Scott Amedure and his family who come on the show unknowingly and are the victims of the promotion of antagonism or humiliation or confrontation, as your viewers have also seen. And if something happens as a result of that, there have been attacks on these shows, there have been assaults on these shows, and these shows understand that they're attempting to produce these kind of confrontations. And truly, there was a blindsiding here. There was not full informed consent. Scott Amedure didn't understand the risk he was placing himself at. And Schmitz, I don't defend him at all, but he told the Jenny Jones Show he did not want to be put in a situation of humiliation and embarrassment. They bear the responsibility for that.
We have Dick Thompson here, who is the Oakland County prosecutor and will be prosecuting Jonathan Schmitz. And I understand this is a rare thing in Detroit that you and Jeffrey Feiger agree about something.
That's right.
Every once in a while we do.
Capture this moment. Capture this moment.
What do you agree with him about?
Well, I think both the Jenny Jones Show and also the defendant bear responsibility. As a prosecutor, my job, of course, is to enforce the criminal law. And I've done this in this case by looking at the evidence and charging Jonathan Schmitz with murder, first-degree murder, the most serious crime we have in our state. On the other hand, as I said, I also believe that the Jenny Jones Show bears moral responsibility for what happened. And of course, Jeffrey Feiger will see if they also bear civil responsibility for what happened. I think there are a lot of victims here. Not only the family of Mr. Amedure and Scott Amedure himself, but also we have Jonathan Schmitz, who probably, had this show not occurred, would not have been involved in this first-degree murder charge now.
Well, thank you. That gives me a good segue to Mr. James Burdick, who is representing and defending Jonathan Schmitz. What do you think about what Mr. Feiger and Mr. Thompson had to say?
Well, I agree in great measure that the Jenny Jones Show bears a great deal of responsibility. I guess our only real disagreement is whether or not, at least my disagreement with Dick Thompson, is whether or not the responsibility that they bear, that the Jenny Jones Show bears, has an impact on the criminal case, and whether or not first-degree murder is an appropriate charge in this case. You know, we had an opportunity to talk with Jenny Jones about this case and about what happened. And the thing that struck me more than anything else about the way the show is run, at least about Jenny Jones, was that she knew nothing, she says, about how the show was planned. She says she knows nothing about how the show is promoted. She says she has nothing to do with any of the selection of any of the topics for the shows, and that she has no contact with any of the people who are the pigeons on the shows. At one point, I think I compared her to the sergeant in the Hogan's Heroes television show, who knew nothing and saw nothing and heard nothing. And that's what she seems to be saying. When she did her little bit on television and said how wonderful they were and how terrible everybody else was, I think not only was it obviously self-serving, but it showed that she really wants to bear no responsibility morally, socially, ethically, professionally, financially, I'm sure, or otherwise.
Now that was a heated discussion, and rightfully so. I mean, this was something that I couldn't believe that it was even happening. And it caused a big slur of controversy, et cetera, et cetera. Well, anyhow, Frank had something to say to an audience member as well.
As far as the gentleman in the front row, there's comments about talk shows being informative and educational and allowing him to have experience of life. I'd like to ask him if he feels that that experience, that education, that knowledge about all these people's problems and issues that get discussed on the talk shows is an expense, and the problems that the people might occur and the tragedies that happen to them, is that an expense that you're willing to pay for that little bit of what you call education?
What I'm basically saying is it exposes us to behaviors that we wish or wish not to do. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm not saying
that
it's
the people that's on the show, though, are paying the price for your education.
I mean, really? That almost happened 30 years ago. I can't believe it. I mean, sometimes it seems like it happened a long time ago, and sometimes it seems like it didn't. You know, it's crazy. That was when talk shows were controversial. I mean, God, the 90s. And if you like 90s talk shows like I do, I hope you subscribe. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up because, you know, that really does help me out. So I thank you for watching. Now, you're probably wondering why I switched my shirt to a Bea Arthur shirt. Well, I found this rarely seen interview with Bea Arthur in my collection of Detroit archive footage, and you're definitely going to want to check it out. I put the link below so that you can see that, and I know you're going to enjoy it. And then there's some other ones too. Tim Allen, I have a bunch. I'm going to keep posting more. So I thank you so much for watching. I thank you. Like I said, please subscribe, and I'll talk to you real soon. 90s talk shows all the way. Bye. Oh, P.S. I did want to read this in case you were curious whatever happened to Jonathan Schmitz. Jonathan Schmitz was convicted of murder in 1996. He was sentenced to prison for 25 to 50 years. The conviction was then overturned, and after a retrial, Schmitz was reconvicted of the same crime in 1999. He was, however, released in 2017 on parole, and he has remained out of the limelight ever since. So that's where that stands. All right. Again, thanks for watching. I appreciate it so much. Hearts.